It's early morning hours of Friday, October 11th, 2013, in Canfield, Ohio, a wealthy, almost exclusively white suburb outside the city of Youngstown. The final gasp of summer subsides in Mahoning County, on the Buckeye State's northeastern border with Pennsylvania. The autumn air, a crisp 47 degrees. Police officer Chad DeBar monitors traffic from inside his patrol car. He's parked off Lisbon Street, across from JR's Auto City Inventory, a used car lot. Like most nights in suburbia, it's quiet. A tan Chevy Impala with a large crack in the windshield cruises by, and Officer DeBar takes notice. While Canfield is the type of place where the cops will ticket you for a crack in the windshield, that wasn't what caught the patrolman's eye. You see, for months now, in the dead of night, this small community has had car after car broken into, leaving residents waking up to missing wallets and purses snatched from their vehicles. At this point, the cops have two suspects on their radar, and they drive a tan Chevy Impala. Officer DeBar shifts into drive and begins tailing the Impala westbound down Route 62, just far enough behind to check the license plate. It's a match. The Impala pulls over and a search of the car turns up wallets, credit cards, and other stolen items, plus a few small bags of cocaine and a crack pipe. By the end of Officer DeBar's shift, two suspects are in custody. But there's something larger starting to unravel. Something neither the small-town cop nor the two petty thieves he's pinched in the traffic stop could ever expect. This is simply the first domino to fall in what will eventually become an investigation involving millions of dollars, hundreds of bank accounts, and multiple law enforcement agencies, including the FBI. Yes, this is just the beginning of one of the largest eBay fraud cases ever recorded, and the largest organized crime case ever prosecuted in the history of mobbed-up Mahoning County.
This case went from two drug addicts getting pulled over with stolen credit cards all the way up to a multi-million-dollar sports memorabilia fraud case.
A lot of money to be made here real quick.
I thought to myself, okay, that's why the FBI is here.
Just be completely honest with you, you're in a pickle.
What am I looking at as far as possible charges?
He's looking at anywhere between 30 and 40 years.
That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard.
I know I'm never getting out. He won't get out now. Oh, God.
You know, if you're a sore loser or hate losing, like, how do you fix that? You don't fucking lose.
My name is Johnny Chechitelli. I'm a filmmaker and journalist from the Mahoning Valley who spent the past decade working in Los Angeles. But something drew me back to my hometown, which has been known as Crime Town, USA, for over 60 years. It's been said that crime was to Youngstown what movies were to Hollywood and cars to Detroit. The corruption was so prevalent that the Mahoning County prosecutor himself was caught taking bribes in exchange for letting murderers back on the street. That was the case for decades here, and everyone knew it. Justice in Youngstown could be bought and paid for. Until the late 1990s, when the FBI finally evened up the score, systematically dismantling the mob and bringing down Youngstown's last mafia don, Lenny Strollo, along with over 80 local officials who were in his pocket. The pattern of corruption, at least by the look of it, was finally broken. Over 20 years later, I moved back, signed a lease for some office space in downtown Youngstown, and started the amazing podcast company, shining a light on the legendary mob stories that people here were once too afraid to discuss. Then one day, I got a call from a friend, the type of friend who could always put me in touch with a wise guy if I needed help with my research. You know, that type of friend. He told me about a case I should look into, something about millions of dollars, sports memorabilia, and someone I should meet. I was pretty busy and didn't know if I'd have time, but what he said next is what hooked me. After serving over 5 years in prison, the mastermind of this crime just got out and was in the halfway house, waiting to talk with me. My friend knows me all too well.
Please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey Johnny, Cliff Panzich here. I just got released on house arrest. I'm over here in Girard. You can park anywhere on the street. Just let me know when you want to come by for this interview.
I'd come to learn that I knew Cliff after all. Not well, but he's only a year younger than I am. He grew up 4 streets away from me, and he played Little League Baseball against me all throughout our childhoods. As teenagers, while I went to our local public school, Cliff went to a private Catholic high school. And years later, I was working in California when Cliff got busted, so this whole story flew under my radar. Until I got that call from my friend, telling me there was some master forger fresh out of the clink, sitting in a halfway house, waiting to talk. I'm told he was screwed over, that he was the victim of Youngstown corruption, and that he didn't get a fair shake with the justice system. I'm skeptical, but almost 6 years in prison for a first-time nonviolent offender does seem pretty stiff. And it wouldn't be the first case of prosecutorial misconduct I'd ever heard of in Youngstown. So, let's see where this goes. Before meeting Cliff, I decided to do a little research on autograph forgery. In the world of sports memorabilia, the problem of fraudulent items is more common than you might think. In the late 90s, an FBI case known as Operation Bullpen exposed industry-wide counterfeiting, accounting for nearly $100 million of what was then just a $1 billion a year industry. According to the FBI, Operation Bullpen dismantled 18 forgery rings, netted 63 charges and convictions, and over $4.9 million in asset seizures. Those numbers might give you the impression that the sports memorabilia industry has been cleaned up. But nowadays, the internet makes it harder to police. All it takes to set up shop is a valid ID, a bank account, and a penchant for penning signatures. Cliff Panzich was so good at replicating athletes' signatures, someone in the fraud ring once said that watching him forge was like watching Michael Jordan shoot hoops. Not even the top professional authentication companies could tell the difference between Mike Trout's scribble and Cliff's. It's a type of hidden talent that can really only be used for one thing: crime. Unfortunately for Cliff, his talent didn't stay hidden, and eventually, the feds caught on. What you're going to hear over the next 8 episodes is the story of Operation Stolen Base, the FBI's codename for this case, and how federal agents stepped up to the plate to pinch hit for local investigators as they took down Cliff's multi-million-dollar enterprise. But how they even found out about Cliff was something of a serendipitous accident. So let's go back to the beginning, to that upper-class suburb, Canfield, which, coincidentally, is where the old Mahoning Valley Mafia boss, Lenny Strollo, used to live. In the years after the mob fell, Canfield had developed a new, albeit much more petty problem: people breaking into cars. Chapter 1: The Pre-Game Warm-Up.
Take it away, gentlemen. Thanks for waiting. Here we go. All right, so if you can just start with identify yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my name's Brian McGivern, former retired Canfield police detective.
It's a sunny, late summer's afternoon in downtown Youngstown when we meet Brian McGivern. He's a big guy who looks like he would have made a good linebacker in high school, a quality that stands in contrast to his calm demeanor. Like myself and Cliff, Brian grew up in Mahoning County.
So I grew up in Youngstown, South Side, ended up graduating from Boardman High School in 94, and I knew that I wanted to be a policeman in the 8th grade. They had career day, and 2 Boardman policemen came in. And I saw the uniforms and the way that they talked and they carried themselves, and they were funny. I remember that. And I said, that's something that I think I'd really like to do. And ever since that moment, I knew I wanted to be a policeman. So Canfield sits outside on the outskirts of Youngstown as a small suburb. So it's a little 4x4 square foot city. There's only, 8,000 residents that live there. It's a bedroom community. After 10, 11 o'clock at night, the sidewalks roll up. There's no nightlife going on there. After midnight, that's it. It's only traffic out. It's actually known to be one of the safest communities in Ohio.
Canfield, some would argue, can be too safe. Ask any local in the Youngstown area, and they'll tell you Canfield cops are sticklers when it comes to driving through their suburb. You might get pulled over for something as benign as a loud exhaust or get ticketed for going 2 miles over the speed limit. I should know. It happened to me. But Canfield's safe reputation was being challenged in 2013 when a region-wide rash of car break-ins made its way to this quiet little bedroom community. We can't say for certain when the first one occurred, but for Detective Brian McGivern, it all begins on March 1st of that year with a woman named Catherine. Just after 3 p.m. on March 1st, Catherine walks through the door of the Canfield Police Department. The day before, she'd gone to use her debit card when she noticed it wasn't in her wallet. After checking some places she could have left it, she logged into her bank account to notice that 10 purchases had been charged to her account for a total of $625. She hands the list of unauthorized charges to Detective McGivern, and the investigation begins. The day in the life of an average detective is often over-glamorized. On TV, they're the ones chasing bad guys through dark alleyways, exchanging gunfire with bank robbers, and finding clues that wrap up a case within an hour of prime time. But an actual average day for a detective in small-town USA wouldn't exactly make for must-see television.
The policeman, he's working, paycheck to paycheck. He's, making his bills and raising a family and doing what he does, but it's not the sexy lifestyle.
The bank statements provided by Catherine not only showed where the thief used her card, a few gas stations and a Giant Eagle grocery store, but also when. Brian visits each gas station and asks the managers to see the security footage. Unfortunately, all the footage Brian encounters is either too grainy to make out any details or has already been deleted from record. He was striking out, for now. A few days later, Brian receives in-store security footage from the grocery store, and with it, his first glimpse at the suspect. A woman in black clothing, her face concealed with a baseball cap. It's not quite a home run, but it is enough to distribute to other area investigators. There was something else. The thief was recorded buying several gift cards. It's a familiar move from the playbook of petty theft. Steal a credit or debit card and buy as many gift cards as you can before the victim cancels their card. Then sell them on a site like Craigslist for easy cash. Had this been the only debit card stolen during that time, Detective McGivern likely would have left the case unsolved. After all, it's only petty theft we're talking about. But this was only the beginning of what Brian would later call an epidemic in the Mahoning Valley.
So we were having a rash of theft from auto cases. Individuals were going into residential neighborhoods, pulling on unlocked car doors, going in and stealing items, credit cards, wallets, cell phones, that type of thing. Not only Canfield City, it was all over Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania.
As 2013 progressed, more and more residents walked into the Canfield Police Department to file report after report. There was a woman and her husband who woke up noticing suspicious prints in the snow circling their black Lincoln SUV. Unfortunately, she picked the wrong night to leave her wedding ring in the car. There was another lady who filed a report about her purse stolen overnight from her son's truck, and a man who had $170 plus all of his credit cards stolen from the glove compartment. The list of victims kept piling up. There's really only so much that investigators like Brian McGivern can do to solve this. It's not about finding some hidden clue that'll break the case wide open. It's about waiting for the suspect to make a mistake. And just like that, it happens. A woman named Erin files a police report about a stolen credit card. This time, cameras were rolling as Erin's card was used at a McDonald's drive-thru. When detectives examine it, they see a light-colored Chevy Impala pulling in. They can't make out the license plate, but they are able to get a look at a woman and a man inside the car. They catch another break when looking at security footage from a Speedway gas station. There they see what appears to be the same woman from before, though this time her appearance is not as concealed. They print a picture of their suspect, a white woman with dyed blonde hair, and send it out to other area police departments, along with a make and model on the car. It may not seem like much to go off of, but this isn't a small crime in a big city. Each of the surrounding communities has its small share of usual suspects, and sure enough, by the end of the day, detectives have a short list of suspects.
Working with area detectives from all over Northeast Ohio, we did develop a couple suspects. Their names were John and April Blosser. They had a drug addiction problem, both of them. They were people that were just trying to support their drug habit. And by doing that, they were going and stealing people's properties in the middle of the night.
John and April Blosser had not been married long when they became suspects, but both of them did have felony records. The pair were a petty Bonnie and Clyde, married the previous June and now well into their traveling crime spree. Their whereabouts difficult to pinpoint. Through the summer and into the fall, the break-ins persist as John and April continue to evade the cops. Meanwhile, more reports of stolen wallets, purses, and credit cards continue to overwhelm police precincts throughout Northeast Ohio.
So we had these suspects, and I gave it to the patrol division. Guys, you have to be on the lookout. We're getting killed with these cases all over the state, and here's the vehicle description. Here's what they look like.
That brings us back to the beginning of the episode. October 11th, 2013, the night of the traffic stop. It's 1:15 a.m., and the first thing Officer Chad DeBar notices about that tan Chevy Impala is the cracked front windshield. But already on the lookout for a tan Impala belonging to John Blosser, Officer DeBar begins his pursuit. As soon as he pulls out behind the Impala, it accelerates. Officer DeBar radios for backup and continues tailing the vehicle until another Canfield unit is in position to assist. They throw on their lights and DeBar, along with Officer DeFranja, pull the Impala over on Route 62. April and John are immediately taken into custody and their vehicle impounded.
It was about 2:30 in the morning. My phone went off, and it was a couple patrol guys. They said, "Hey, we got John and April Blosser in custody." I said, "Beautiful, I'll be in." They had towed their car to the police department, and there was just tons of stolen items from different vehicles. And again, cell phone chargers, cell phones, credit cards, purses. There was a lot. And inside the car was a motel key. So we identified the motel of where they were staying. And because this was such a large crime wave that they were committing, we decided that we're going to execute a search warrant at this motel room.
By 3 p.m. that day, Detective McGivern gets his warrant. He and 2 more Canfield cops search the room and hit the jackpot. They obtain stolen credit cards, iPads, jewelry, prescription drugs, and dozens of gift cards.
Now that we had all these credit cards and gift cards that we recovered from the hotel in the Wessler car, I start putting emails out to different detectives saying, these are the card numbers, the gift card numbers, these are the credit card numbers. If you guys can track them, that would be fantastic, because, I mean, there was a large amount of stolen items. What we noticed was people were going in and buying a large amount of sporting equipment. 2 or 3 buckets of baseballs, 3 and 4 cartfuls of footballs from local Walmarts.
Stolen credit cards, used to buy gift cards, used to buy sporting goods. A strange development. But for investigators, it was reminiscent of some other recent activity. Back in July, a man named Anthony was arrested for running out of a Walmart with a shopping cart full of baseballs. A month later, a guy named Pete was caught on camera using a gift card bought off April Wessler. His shopping list was unusual: 33 footballs and a burner phone. In September, when police were still looking for John and April, they brought in Pete to see what he knew about the Wesslers. Pete said he'd been buying gift cards off them for months, but he didn't know either by name and would later identify them through mugshots provided by police. Before they let Pete go, investigators asked the question, "What are you doing with 33 footballs and a burner phone?" This rattled Pete. He became nervous and initially denied buying those things.
You know, if you say that I purchased those footballs and the track phone, I guess that I did. I just don't remember that.
Detectives see a pattern, but what does it mean? Through tracking the activity of gift cards bought with stolen credit cards, police see another person on Walmart security cameras buying shopping carts full of baseballs and footballs. He's around 6 feet tall with an athletic build, and he's seen driving away in a white Chevy Avalanche. It's Cliff Panizich, but the cops don't know that. At least not yet. All right, state and spell your name and tell us where we are today.
So Cliff Panizich, Panezich. I'm in Girard, Ohio right now.
And what did Sports Illustrated call this?
One of the biggest sports memorabilia frauds in U.S. history.
On the next episode of Operation Stolen Base,
I graduated high school with who ended up being the starting quarterback at Penn State. I hit him up. I got an envelope full of money. You know, I could kind of take care of him if he needed anything, but I need some autographs. We meet in this side parking lot away from the facility. You know, it probably took on the sense of more of a drug deal than anything else.
This episode of Operation Stolen Base was written by me, Johnny Chechitelli, along with Kevin Skubak. Story editing, mixing, and sound design by Kevin Skubak. Produced by Vince Tornero and myself. Our theme song is Chasin by the Vindys.
That was an amazing podcast from an amazing podcast company in co-production with Wessler Media.